released on the 26th of April 2024 for the PlayStation 5 and subsequently on the 11th of June 2025 for Windows, Stellar Blade is a third-person perspective action-adventure light role-playing game set in a fictional post-apocalyptic vision of Earth. Going into his first playthrough of Stellar Blade, this reviewer had very little knowledge about the game, what it would be like, indeed what it was actually about. Of course, it was hardly a secret that the main protagonist, the player character, Eve, had been deliberately over-sexualized. Who Eve was and what the game's story was actually about remained a mystery. However, given the blatant, exaggerated glamorization of Eve, would the game just devolve into some form of prolonged comical parody? Stellar Blade makes no attempt to hide that the developers are heavily influenced by the Matrix trilogy of films, and there are many visual homages and ideas that are introduced throughout the game's experience that are clear parallels to the ideas within the films. Perhaps the most notable is the main ship used in the game, which is very similar to the Hammer. However, Stellar Blade does not follow the story ideas that are presented within the Matrix. This is not a story of a world within a world structure. Instead, the game's story falls much more in line with the ideas presented within Nier Automata, and by association the ideas within the film Blade Runner and the book upon which it was based, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. In terms of graphical presentation, the game is a stunning visual treat. Built with the Unreal Engine 4, designers Kim Hyung Tae, Lee Chang-min and Jang Hee-chi-oh have matched the lofty heights of Final Fantasy VII's Rebirth, and in some ways, arguably, surpassed it. It is one of the most visually accomplished games this player has played on the PlayStation 5, and on the right PC rig, this game is going to really pop. The game consists of a series of semi-open world areas that vary in their design aesthetic, offering a large diversity in mood and atmosphere that is achieved through meticulous level design, use of textures and materials, lighting, shading and colour palette selection. The level of detailing here is masterful, and this element really makes a huge difference to the fidelity, the sharpness of those environments and the objects within them. These areas also range from fairly linear directional experiences to larger open areas full of things to discover, items to collect and puzzles to solve. Stellar Blade incorporates a light role-playing mechanical layer, whereby players can enhance Eve's power base by upgrading her weapon, her healing abilities, and by acquiring a range of skills that help her within combat and augment other abilities that she possesses. As noted above, there are also a slew of cosmetic items to collect along your travels, a dizzying amount of new looks for Eve. Talking of Eve's look, well, Eve, brilliantly voice acted by Rebecca Hanson in the English version of the game, is an idealised female form, in such a way that it is initially very comical. She isn't, in fact, my own idealised version of a female. Nevertheless, this player would describe the game as stellar boobs when telling others about the game he was playing. Many of the additional costumes that you acquire on your journey through the game are extremely provocative. In fact, it is fair to say that some of them may as well be lingerie from Victoria's Secret. And yet, here is the twist. This is deliberately done, for two primary reasons. The first is intrinsic to the story, so cannot be discussed here. The second is to do with assumption and directly confronting those who would wish to destroy our civilization by attacking and demonizing the natural and necessary sexual attraction that females can generate within men. These people wish to claim and convince others that this is in fact not natural, that this is in some way perverse. Perverse meaning that something is not natural or something that is falsely representing nature. 'Tis in fact a big middle finger to the insane extreme radicals whom for the most part should be in care of mental health institutions. As was the case with Nier Automata and 2B, the really clever part is that despite the overtly sexual nature of Eve, as a player this quickly becomes a minor part of the overall experience. As the story begins to establish itself and the world opens up for the player, there are so many other things that grab your attention that Eve becomes what she should be, a conduit for the overall experience of the game. As briefly discussed above, the story of Stellar Blade has similarities with Nier Automata, although being its own, and apparently the game's story wasn't so well received by players, and this may well be the reason why. For this reviewer, the story is solid and well written. It serves as a structural guide in which all of the experiences within the game can be placed. Of course, no game is perfect, and not for the first time this reviewer found that combat could be a little problematic. Stellar Blade utilises a real-time approach to combat, as was the case with Nier Automata. The difference here is that the timing within Stellar Blade's combat for things such as blocking and evasion are staggered. This means they are often deliberately taken off a natural rhythmic response timing that a player may anticipate to be the case, such as in games like Devil May Cry 5 and Nier Automata itself. On the normal level of difficulty, this easily catches a player out, and as the game starts to reach its conclusion, there are some extremely tough boss encounters that for this player became very frustrating. Perhaps it is simply down to age, but of course age also brings experience, and well, that vast experience wasn't actually making anything easier. Thankfully though, by changing the difficulty to story mode, you're also able to deploy a slow motion effect, as was the case with Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and this makes a noticeable difference, although you can still get caught out quite easily. Stellar Blade's original soundtrack is an outstanding collage of synth, orchestration, rock and stripped down vocal leads. Shifts up Xun Wang, Young-ji Lee, Hyun-min Cho, Sieben, Moonwon Purnell, Min-hee Kang, Monica's Oliver Good and Kita Inoue, as well as Tak, Lily, Mother Vibes and Dankum, all combine to offer a plethora of different moods and impressions that perfectly complement the variety and diversity of the experiences that the game experience provides. Stellar Blade is a game that successfully demonstrates that the superficiality of having an overtly sexualized lead protagonist is in fact unimportant to the actual experience of the game, as was the case with Lara Croft in the Tomb Raider series and with 2B in Nier Automata. It is Eve's personality and character that takes precedence over her looks. Stellar Blade is a masterfully crafted live-action adventure RPG, both a spiritual successor and companion to Nier Automata, and rightly takes its place alongside not only Nier, but Devil May Cry as one of the best action-adventure games that you can currently play. Utterly beautiful.